All right, we're back. I have Maneco 64. My pleasure to host him. We had a pretty good video that he interviewed me just about 2 weeks ago. We had a lot of good feedback. And today's March 6th. I wanted to go over some questions for Mario. He's ex-banker. Why don't you tell us just real quick, Mario, before we start about your just a little bit about your history. How did you start the channel, and what did you do? Just give us like a rundown for like a minute or two.
Yeah, so I started out at a small private bank in Geneva, Switzerland, because that's where I lived in the late 80s. I had finished university in Geneva. I worked there for 2.5 years, and then I got offered a job in London working for a bond broker, and then I got into futures and options, but mostly working for banks and brokers up until 2012. Then I tried a few things. I tried a pawnbroking franchise for a couple of years. That didn't work out that badly, but it didn't really make enough money to make it worthwhile. You're in business to make a profit. And then we liquidated the company in late 2014. And then in late 2015, I decided to start posting videos. And I decided to cover what I know. And basically that's markets, economics, and I'd been also learning a lot about economics, even though I had a degree in international relations and economics. I had been learning a lot about it since 2002, the Austrian School of Economics, and I got involved in gold and silver privately. So I decided to put the channel together and talk about the markets, about sound money, small government, which is the Austrian mantra: sound money, small government, freedom. And and it's really grown since then. It didn't go viral, but it's been steady growth. I have about 87,000 or just under 87,000 subscribers. And I checked today, I have over 23 million views. So basically that's my quick 2-minute background.
Yeah, that's a very impressive resume. I'm very honored to have you as a guest. This is a perfect time, and for this channel is what I talk about is all connected to, what my channel is about. I do a little bit more on prepping. There is no doubt, but when it comes to markets and all that, for me, it's been the last maybe 7, 8 years that I really wanted to study more about overall economics. Well, as I had no history on it at all, my resume is nothing compared to yours in any of this. So again, it is my pleasure to have you here and learn a lot. So we will cover some bonds and all this that regular folks like myself that are out there, they need to know what's going on, because you have a lot of these channels that they use terminology that most people, I believe, get a little scared. Like when people say, just, I know me and you, especially you, we've heard like QE, right? QT, we know what we're talking about. But a lot of people they just tune off immediately and they think it's too complicated. And they continue kind of like ignoring what they really need to pay attention to, which is what's going on. And this is why I believe bringing you here, you can clarify some of this stuff. And I do have a few questions from Twitter. I usually submit questions. I'm interviewing, for instance, Mario today. So I'm just going to go through a couple of these. One is from the Adrian Pub landlord that you are familiar. He's your neighbor in a way. He's out in UK. And for those that are not sure where Mario is, he's in London, right? Exactly in London, around suburbs of London. And this guy's also from this, I think, pretty close to you. And he asked the question, perfect time to sell your gold and silver. I think that's a great question to start, because I would love to hear your take on this one. Perfect.
Is he saying that?
Go ahead.
Is he asking what the perfect time is, or he thinks it's a perfect time right now?
He said perfect time to sell your gold, silver, ... So I think that he's asking a question. When do you think? Yes.
I look at, before I answer the question, I'd like to say, you said the terms like QE and QT. I do talk about those, but I try to explain like to the viewers what it is in a simple way. But anyway, I consider gold and silver money, like savings. And there are times, of course, during currency collapses like you had in your country back in the 90s, or like in other countries like where I grew up in Brazil, that gold and silver become very valuable and you can do a lot with them. So my view is that when gold and silver become overvalued versus assets, and I'm not talking about, oh, gold is going to 10,000 and I'm going to sell it. It's more like how many acres can I buy, acres of land can I buy with my ounce of gold or my ounce of silver and things like that. So I think that, and it depends on the individual. I think generationally, it's always good to have some gold and silver to leave it to your children. So hopefully they can leave it to their children and so on. So yeah, for example, I've looked at the gold price, average house price in the UK to gold ratio, and right now it's like 167 ounces you need to buy the average house price in the UK. And historically, since 1952, the lowest it was in 1982, around 90 ounces. So I still think there's a lot of room for gold to appreciate relative to house prices, for example. And if we get the kind of currency events, kind of collapse of the pound that we've seen, last year it did kind of a crash and it's rebounded. I think it could be even lower, that ratio. You could be able to get the average house maybe for 50 ounces. So that's how you got to look at it. And you can do the same thing for silver as well. You just have to keep track and see what you can buy with things. And then if you feel that you need an asset, then you sell your gold or you exchange your gold and silver. You might need to go through the fiat, but what I'm trying to say is you got to measure it in terms of real assets and real goods.
I could not agree more. We did not talk about this on our previous video, so I didn't know what would your answer be. That's why I really like this question, because a lot of people are asking that. This is, I believe, great question from Adrian. So thank you for submitting this, because a lot of people are just confused. They would buy physical, watch the price in whatever currency they're tracking. Let's just say USD right now is the world's reserve currency for now, and they're looking at, oh, it went up from I bought it at 1,500, now it's 1,800, I'm going to sell, or something like this. I never bought it looking at it that way. I'm exactly on the same level of thinking the way you are. What is the value? What can I get? Something real. I want something real for an ounce of gold. And I believe that your kind of like ratio with homes, because you're looking at like a hard asset, right? Something real that you can touch, you can have roof over your head, something like that would be important. Like for me, I'm looking at, this may sound quirky for some people, but I'm looking at buying a new farm truck, right? And the prices for trucks are incredibly high, especially when you live in the country. Nobody wants to sell you a truck unless it's something really wrong with it, right? They run those things until they basically wheels fall off, right? And they run like 300, 400,000 miles. So I'm looking at it, okay, so gold is still, in my opinion, way price-wise. I can't look at it like, would I get a value? How many would I get 2 ounces of gold for some used truck that's maybe $4,000? It's not worth it. It's nowhere close for me to even think to make that kind of barter trade in a way, whether somebody would want to take the actual physical gold, or I would go to the pawn shop down the street and get whatever that currency is and said, okay, I have enough now, I can get this. So there is something that people may need, and you need to pay attention to the value of that. What do you think that 1 ounce of gold could be worth? And I think we're nowhere close for any of that. Like when it comes to housing or something silly like a truck, or whatever it is that people are looking to get in return, or half acre, acre of land, whatever the case may be. So those ratios become very interesting. And I think it comes down to a person to figure out where that is. And then you make the decision to make that bartering move and get rid of that 1 ounce of gold to get something real that you really needed. That's why I like to hold it, besides being in just insurance, because gold is money, silver is money as well.
Yeah, and even if you get like a, let's say, a deflationary collapse of prices of everything, like last year we got a collapse of the Nasdaq over 30%, and gold stayed at the same level. It didn't, in dollars, it was unchanged for the year. So you made like over 30%. If you wanted to buy the Nasdaq, you could buy it 30% cheaper. So even, let's say, if land prices or tractor prices, truck prices drop 60% and gold drops 10% from here, you're actually doing well. It's all relative. So that's what I try to tell people. You have to look at it in terms of real value.
In terms of real value. And I will add on this, and we talked about it a little bit. I did not want to forget to mention this, because I think it perfectly fits into what we're talking about. As our previous video on your channel that you named Accidental Farmer, I think a lot of people should take a listen. I really like that video. Sometimes when we do videos, you're kind of like, oh, I could have said this, it could have went better. But I thought that one just kind of flowed really nicely. And I got a call from an older gentleman from Oklahoma, which is roughly about 5.5 hours from where we are. And he was interested in getting about 200 pounds of meat. That's roughly like half a cow, right, of actual meat packed. And then at the end, when we went over what I got, what he needed, it took about 20-minute conversation. He really enjoyed our video, okay, because he listened to he follows you closely, like I have been for several years now. And then he says, Marco, I got to ask you a question. I said, go ahead, sir. And he said, would you take $2,000 or an ounce of gold for the meat? I answered immediately, I'll take an ounce of gold. Now, this gentleman is older. He's not in his 40s, 30s, 40s, whatever, 50s. He did say, I believe, he's over 80, and he's got, he said, a lot of gold. So I think for him, this makes perfect sense. Like, he's getting something real that he can use as food for a year for his grandkids and whatnot, he mentioned. And it's not his only gold coin that he's had, right? Because I would tell him right away right now, I don't think that's a really good trade if you only had a couple of ounces of gold. I think you can get a lot more meat, is what I'm trying to say, down the road. Unless they completely ban beef, then beef will be maybe even more valuable than gold down the road. But that's kind of like how people do it. And I will record this transaction. I'm not sure if I really want to post it. I don't know, with, you know, all the regulations and everything that's going on, if you know, to track this. But it is going to happen today. He's supposed to be here. He's going to drive and pick it up. And I will definitely, I'm looking forward meeting him and making the first official transaction bartering real goods like meat for gold. So it is possible. And this is 2023 now. We're not looking at, you know, 10 centuries ago when people say it's barbaric relic, it's pet rock, and it's money. Okay. And I am willing to accept it. So.
And it's strange that someone listening to me who's in the UK from Oklahoma has got in touch with you, and you're only 5 hours away. It just shows how the world works these days. And people say, oh, gold is too bulky to carry around. But I mean, an ounce of gold, 1 ounce gold coin is really easy. You put it in your, you know, in the jeans, you have your pocket, and then you have the little pocket that you put, you can put it in there. And you can, you know, with $2,000 cash, it's like bulky. And yeah, so there you go. I'm really happy to hear that someone's
I think that's such I believe that's such a neat story, because a lot of people are just laughing at this when you mention something like this. They think it's funny. especially, of course, millennials that really haven't lived through any kind of downturn besides Bitcoin going down 70% from its all-time high or something like that, and they end up going back to work or something. But they haven't been through any inflation or any kind of really major issues as we've been on this basically free currency for everyone, talking about the Kiwi and all that stuff. But yeah, I just found that very interesting. Like you said, the connection from UK video, the guy from Oklahoma connects with me. And we did mention I would take gold or silver for meat. And he put me on the spot, right? I could have easily said, you know what, Everett, I prefer cash, but I didn't because I thought it's a great trade for me. And if he had, like I said, many coins, then why not for him? It makes perfect sense for a worth of.
Yeah, I write an article every 6 weeks for a magazine in the north of England, near where Adrian's from. And the first time I wrote the article was a guy who listens to my videos, and he paid me in silver. So now he pays in cash, but you can use silver and gold for anything. You just have to agree. If the buyer, the person selling you the good, is willing to accept gold or silver, why not? And there's nothing stopping you. Of course, governments don't like that because it doesn't go through maybe their books.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said, even talking about it right now, people can get in trouble. Just that's the times we're living in. It's basically a worldwide communism in so many ways. Like everybody's watching everybody what to do. So I probably, like I said, I don't know if I really want to record it and put it out there. But what's interesting about this, right? So this transaction, as you know, wink, wink, may not ever take place, right? This gold coin could have been bought with cash a long time ago. There is no actually evidence that this coin exists in a way. So if this coin now goes in my hand, I can immediately go down the road and ask the guy, my neighbor, and said, how many cows you want for a gold coin? And how can you track this? There is no middleman. And when it comes to, for instance, cryptos or any transactions through Venmo or whatever you're using, Western Union and all these other tools of doing transactions, sending currency across, via wire, all of that is easily traceable, and it can be shut down overnight. Like it can be just shut down. And there is basically, internet is the middleman when it comes to my bartering agreement with you. Let's say meat for gold. There is just a handshake. There is nothing out there. Somebody may say, well, there is maybe a drone above your head. Okay, fine. If that's the case, I'll go in the garage. Right? But there is no middle.
It'll be interesting to see how much, let's say, half a cow cost in 2002, because at the time gold was about $250 to $300 an ounce.
Yeah, and
so you could have an idea.
That's a great question. I'm the one that's going to dig into that ratio as well, because I find it very interesting. I think because cattle used to be money. We're going back centuries. It started out like that. So when you start working with something real like this, it's what I try to tell a lot of people, as this channel focuses a lot on solutions, not just pointing out problems that people already see. Is food is key. And if you can just have something real like this, even if it's just something in the backyard, if you have a whatever plant that can just go vertically, if you don't have much room, anything that you can grow yourself is a must. So you don't have to depend on, I have to go to the store to pick this up. You got to have some kind of necessities. And if not, if you don't have the land yet, if you don't have a setup at all, then it is good to get to know your local farmers, ranchers, and be able to barter and have something real, maybe not gold and silver, maybe it's ammo, I don't know, whatever it is. But yeah, I just wanted to
I actually sorry to interrupt. I just remember I have a story about a cow in Brazil, because in 1987 there was a currency reset in Brazil, and the shelves were pretty bare in the supermarkets, and my dad wanted some meat. So he knew a farmer outside of Rio de Janeiro, and he accepted dollars for I don't know how much my dad bought of meat, but I think it could have been the whole cow, and he did everything, and my dad paid in dollars, but he wouldn't accept the Brazilian currency. So, but now that the dollar is going too, like you said, gold and silver are going to be much more important.
Yes, because I'm glad very you touched up on a very important point, because most people can say, okay, well, in ex-Yugoslavia, where I lived when we had hyperinflation, of course, people wanted dollars back in the 90s. Why? Because dollar is king. It still is in so many ways. It has not hyperinflated. It is today still the world reserve currency. But we see what's going on with the dollar, and this will be the first time that a lot of people may be really scared to even take dollars in other countries. And it's going to come down back to gold and silver. And this is where a lot of people misunderstand this, and that they're not understanding the significance of this problem. And I believe how it could happen is the crack up boom that silver guru David Morgan talked about, and I've seen that with my own eyes back in the 90s when masses just kind of like hit that panic switch, because you can't control human nature. You don't know what's going on in people's heads, just like it's very hard, almost impossible to time the markets, when to buy or sell, because you got billions of people sitting and going like this after 3 coffees and hitting panic buttons and selling and buying. You have no idea what the sentiment is. And when that panic hits and they rush to the stores because they want to buy something real like canned goods or whatever, because they know every time they go in, the prices are doubling, tripling, quadrupling. And that's the problem. And if that happens, we are going to see the dollar hyperinflate with the crack up boom. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see a threat on that? What's the sentiment in UK right now?
Well, I think the dollar will eventually go to zero against gold, and so will the British pound. And I think here it's worse because we don't have the major reserve currency anymore. We used to have it till like around the mid-war period between World War I, World War II. Then the US took over. But the dollar, if you look at how many grams of gold it bought in 1953, now it's lost 99%, 98, sorry, percent of its value versus gold. The pound has lost 99, which doesn't sound much, but it makes a big difference, that 1%. So this could drag on for a while longer, as long as you can keep buying gold with dollars or pounds, things are okay. But once it gets really hard to buy gold and silver, then you know that things are bad. And that's when I think the crack up boom will start. Ludwig von Mises spoke about that. And that means the crack up boom is when the public loses confidence in the currency. They realize that the government and the central banks will not stop inflating the currency, and they try to get rid of it as quickly as possible for valuable things. Right now, the central bankers are saying that they're going to be tough because inflation is still high, but I don't think they're doing enough, and that's why inflation has remained really sticky and it's still going up.
Okay, so that would be a perfect segue into my, maybe I'll have one or two more questions for you, not to take up your whole day today. What do you think for, let's say, from now, March till June, what will the Fed Reserve do? Just sticking with US for right now because of the world reserve currency status, what do you think they will do with rates? Are they continuing? Like, are you looking at 25, 0, or 50 points, 50 basis points rate hike, or they're going to stop in March? What do you think up until June, and from June up until the end of the year for the basically second half of this year? What do you foresee coming out of the Fed Reserve?
Well, I think their next meeting is in a couple of weeks, and up until recently, people expected maybe another 25 basis points, and then they would pause. but now it looks like we're hearing from Fed officials that it could be even 50 now in a couple of weeks, and they could keep also rates higher, at elevated levels for longer. So yeah, that's what I see. Maybe they might raise 25 and then another 25 and then stop, or they'll raise 50 in a couple of weeks and then stop. But yeah, and the thing is, the Fed they know as well as we do what's going to happen. So if things change and get pretty, let's say the economy slows down massively and we have a market event, liquidity event, that could be changed overnight, as we've seen back in 2020 and 2019. They don't really know what they're doing. They're like flying without a radar, so to speak, without their instruments are not really long-term instruments. So anything could happen. But right now, I think they're going to raise 25, maybe 50 in a couple of weeks.
Got it. Yeah, because a lot of people are looking at when it comes to trading, they're going to gauge that, thinking if the Fed does stop and goes back to just easy money, basic quantitative easing, the printing machine's going to start again, make everything look like it's available. Everybody's rich again, paper rich. They're trying to time it like that. I personally believe it is impossible right now unless you are really good at what you do and maybe you have some insider info. It is very dangerous times to be in the markets. My motto has been to get in and out. It's what I've been saying for the last couple of years on my channel, to take profits every chance you get and then use, let's say, out of the profit you made in one trade, use at least half and you buy something real with. Like I would buy another cow or looking for some silver or whatever, to buy something real with profits from the markets. And right now, I'm having, for the last 8 months or so, I'm having a tough time doing so because I'm worried, because I can look at it, including even in precious metals, equities, not physical. I'm looking at it like these things can go another 50% down from where they are. I mean, I got stuck with some holdings now for months, and they're down 25, 30%. And some of these dreadful pennies that Rick Rule calls them, they're down 70%. And I'm not even looking at it anymore. It's kind of like, okay, whatever. It's sitting there and just waiting for another boom, I guess. But at least I have some dividends coming out of the bigger companies, which I not advise, because I'm not a financial advisor. I just tell people what I do and why, and how I'm preparing for what's coming, like a company like, for instance, Rio or Exxon, when it had really high dividends, something that when it goes down 20, 30%, you're at least getting some kind of, you can offset your loss a little bit. But even there, like I said, right now, I'm worried. I don't think it's buy and hold environment. So it's very hard for that. What are your thoughts to finish the video off with the markets? Are you investing? Are you trading? Or you're just kind of waiting to see with some cash? What are you doing?
Well, I don't really trade so much anymore, but I do have miners like you, and the small ones, they have been frustrating. The big ones like Newmont, I have some Barrick, they do pay the dividends, and I have some Petrobras as well, the Brazilian oil
Brazilian one,
company.
PBR?
Yeah, they've paid some PBR, they've paid some big dividends. I think they're gonna cut their dividends, but I still think it's okay to be in there. So yeah, overall, I think yeah, the markets are very uncertain, and but the only thing that I have a bit is the mining sector and maybe a bit of energy, and that's a percentage of what I have in terms of physical. So, and trading is really, yeah, it's something that you have to do full time, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather talk about things and make my videos and keep stacking.
Yes, keep stacking physical. And this is why I talked about it on my Twitter. I always mention the ratio is, when it comes to precious metal sector, for me personally, I'm looking at a 70-30 or even working on 80-20, meaning 70% of the precious metals investment is in physical and 30% working on 20 is in equities. And the reason I mention this, because I know you don't talk much on your videos on trading at all. A lot of people ask about it. They get frustrated. Why? Because they buy ETFs. They're buying GDX, GDXJ, right? Those are the stock tickers for these ETFs when it comes to precious metals equities, right? And they are frustrated, like you said, holding these things and trying to trade in and out. It's when you have physical, you sleep better at night, and this is just a speculation. So I would definitely suggest a lot of people to be very careful what you're doing when it comes to stocks nowadays, and stick with what Mario just said, which is stack.
Yeah, the other thing about being in the stock market, you have counterparty risk. You don't know what's going to happen to your broker. Look at what happened to MF Global. I think it was in 2011 or so. They went bust, and some people got their money back, but it took a few years.
Yeah, and I'm just like I said, I am very kind of like worried right now. I'm not trying to trade in and out too much. And for those that are frustrated with precious metals, like we said, you got to look at the value for the physical. You don't look at what is the price for too much in the currency. You're looking at what can you get in exchange. And it ties up to Adrian's question, which I thought was the most important one here for this video, to break that down, because a lot of people, excuse me, are just not sure. They're just not sure. They're thinking like, I'm going to buy an ounce of gold and it's going to the moon Bitcoin style, and then I'm going to sell it for currency.
For a currency that's dying.
Yes. So that's why I was like, no, you want to exchange it for real things. That's the whole purpose of it. Like you were talking about the real estate and stuff like that. So I hope, like I said, this video was helpful in that regard. And I really appreciate your time today, Mario. I don't want to hold you up any longer today. Tell us a little bit before we finish where people can find you. You are on Twitter as well. I can put your handle down.
Yeah, basically I make a video every day on YouTube. My channel is Maneco64. So at Maneco64. On Twitter is at Maneco1964. So yes, that's where you can find me.
Got it. I will post I will put Twitter handle for you down in the description box, and your YouTube channel. And again, I really appreciate your time, and I hope to talk to you maybe second half of this year and see what these rate hikes or non-rate hikes are doing. And we'll kind of revisit the situation. And I will keep you posted what happened with this